the Apple branding is slightly superior than the Samsung branding. So again, we can see big differences in these two. If we could look at the pricing of Apple, the pricing of Apple is a premium price, a high price. They do not go for competitive type pricing or cost-based pricing or psychological price pricing. They actually go for a premium price. They look at what the customer, oh, it's a butterfly flying. They look at the price that the customer is actually willing to pay for, and then they price it as that. And normally the iPhones are some of the most expensive phones out there. In direct comparison, the price range of the Samsung phone is not cheap. It's still a premium type product, but they are pricing themselves competitively in terms of the iPhone. So they are a premium product, but they use competitive type pricing to make sure that they're slightly cheaper than the iPhones. So for example, you could look at the iPhone 7. The iPhone 7, their contracts go from £40 to £45. And for the same type of minutes, data, mobile internet data and texts, the Samsung would most likely go for around £35 to £38 per month if you're buying it on a contract basis as a direct comparison. But predominantly, the pricing strategy for the Apple and the pricing strategy for the Samsung is going to be different. Okay, one is going to be more market-led in terms of what the market is prepared to pay, a premium high price for Apple, and then for Samsung it's still premium, but they're looking at slightly more competitive pricing in relation to Apple. When we look at distribution, well, the Apple stores take a more holistic view. You have the Apple stores, which are owned by Apple themselves. They have their online stores, and they also have authorized retailers, telecom companies and fulfillment services. Now the authorized retailers are those retailers who will be selling the Apple iPhones on their behalf. Now they just won't be any retailer. They would obviously be vetted and selected that fit in to the whole image of Apple themselves and the whole image of the iPhone. So they will be selective retailers and authorized retailers to sell the iPhone. And again, they're Apple stores as well. So they will be selling it in direct, they'll have their own direct stores, making a maximum profit, and then selling into other retail stores. In direct comparison, we see Samsung having a different distribution system. So their system is a single distributor in a city who caters for all the retailers in that area. So then they would have one distributor in one area, and that distributor would predominantly look after the Samsung phones in that complete area and distribute it, and obviously meet the needs of Samsung. So a different type strategy there. They also have sales and service dealers involved in corporate sales, and they also have modern retail companies as selling it into other companies as an alternative. So we can see that their distribution is different from Samsung having authorized distributors to cater for a specific area, and then that distributor looks after all the retailers in that area and would decide, according to the Samsung specification, who would be able to distribute the Samsung phones. And then specialized retailers, like for instance, Samsung has given a specialized deal to Tesco's. So Tesco's, who use various providers, will then sell the Samsung phone. But you wouldn't see the iPhone, or the iPhone currently is not being sold in Tesco's. So again, two different strategies in terms of distribution and getting the product from yourselves to the end consumer. And what about promotions? Well, we can see that with Samsung, they do advertise in the local papers, and they do advertise on television as well. The new product launches are kept updated with local newspapers, direct emails, TVs, posters, and even celebrities, using celebrities in ads to get their message across. And Samsung use 5% of their sales towards their sales promotions. Sales promotions obviously being advertising, exhibitions, personal sales, direct sales, and public relations. So 5% of Samsung's total sales for the electronics side is used to fund their promotions. In direct comparison, we've seen that the Apple Store, for instance, they advertise through their website, they advertise through the Apple stores, they use personal selling in stores to sell their products and services, and their staff are trained heavily and trained to actually sell their products in store, unlike the Samsung stuff. But we'll come on to people later. As such, iPhone don't really do too many promotions on their latest phones in terms of a sales promotion being a temporary additional value, unlike Samsung. So for example, iPhone may give special promotions on older iPhone phones, but you won't see promotions on, for instance, the iPhone 8 or the latest iPhone. Unlike Samsung, for instance, when they were selling the S7, Samsung undertook a special promotion with Tesco's, for example, whereby they said if you took out this contract for £35 per month, which includes 1,000 minutes a month, 3 gigs of internet data, and 10,000 texts a month, paying £35 a month for the contract and for the phone over a 2-year period, they also gave a choice as a free gift, the free gift being either a 360-degree camera or a wireless earpiece or a watch that monitored your fitness. So again, they did a promotion in that way, but it was linked to their latest phone at that time before the S8 had come out. So Samsung are willing to do promotions at certain times in the year with certain retailers with their latest phones, unlike iPhone, who are not willing to compromise and discount or give a promotion on their latest phones, but they might give a discount or a promotion linked with a new product or another product with existing phones, which are older phones. Okay, so again, we can see a big difference there between the promotional strategy that Samsung undertake and iPhone undertake. Okay, and now what about the people? People in the store in Samsung and in iPhone are quite similar to one degree, similar in the degree that they're going to be young people, probably predominantly between the ages of 18 to 25, who are computer literate. They know what they're talking about, and they understand their product, they understand the apps, they understand the technology, the terminology, and they understand everything about the internet. And they have good product knowledge and good industry knowledge in terms of the applications and what these things can be used for. So I think these exist, and their dress is professionally approached as well. In the Samsung stores, you will see people with short sleeves on, with a top with a Samsung image, and trousers with the same trousers, and then likewise the same professional approach in the iPhone stores with their members of staff. But the slight difference there, you would see a distinction between different members of staff, between shop staff and middle, in terms of managers who could then take things to another level. So predominantly they're going to be quite similar. But the people in the stores have been trained to do different things. If you go into a Samsung store, for instance, you will have a center console, you would go to one person with a clipboard, with a pad in his, like an iPad in his hand, and he would take your name and details, and he would then give you a number and say what, and he would ask you what the problem was. And then you would sit down somewhere in the store and your number would be called, and then later on you'll be dealt with. And similar to the Apple Store, that was also available in the Apple Store as well. But predominantly, we'll come on to the process in a minute. Let's move on to the process. So the process now, how the customer goes in, as I've said, that in the Samsung store, someone would go into the Samsung store and you wouldn't go to the counter, but you would go and see a representative, and that representative would take your name and details and put you into a system, and then you would go and sit down somewhere in the store. And this would be a similar process to the Apple Store as well, taking and calling you taking your name and your details and then calling you. The main difference in the process, I'm told, between the Apple Store and the Samsung Store is the length of time it takes. I mean, I've personally been into Apple stores and Samsung stores, and I know that I've gone into a Samsung store and I've waited about 15, maybe, maximum 15, 20 minutes. But I'm told by many people who I've spoken to that predominantly when they have to wait for an Apple store, they can be waiting up for over an hour. So the process in the Apple store, for some unknown reason, seems to take a lot longer than the